Hi history classmates and Mr. Scott. Today for my ISU project, I present to you what the most significant event is in Canadian history. What I think the most significant event is the Confederation. The Confederation is a very significant event in Canadian history because it was the process by which the British colonies of Canada, Nova Scotia, and New Brunswick were brought together into one Dominion of Canada. There were 36 men traditionally called as the Fathers of Confederation. They were the men who represented British North America colonies at one or more of the conferences that led to Confederation on July 1st, 1867. The conferences that were participating in the Confederation were Charlottetown Conference, the Quebec Conference, and the London Conference. The Dominion of Canada was not born out of revolution or a sweeping outburst of nationalism. Rather, it was created in a series of conferences and orderly negotiations culminating in terms of Confederation on July 1st, 1867. The union of the British North American colonies of New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, and the province of Ontario was the first step in a slow but steady nation-building exercise that would encompass other territories and eventually fulfill the dream of a great country. The offers. By the 1860s, the Union of British North America had been a long-simmering idea. Confederation would offer the colonies strength through unity, an idea that gained steady support, especially in the wake of the U.S. abrogation of the Reciprocity Treaty in 1866. The legislators. In the spring of 1864, all three legislators passed resolutions declaring a very good interest in having a conference on the subject. But nothing was done. It was only when the province of Canada announced its interest in being asked to attend such a meeting that the maritime governments stood up to the point. There were three conferences of the creation of Canada. The first conference. Charlottetown was the first appointed place to have a conference. The Canadians sailed to the Charlottetown Conference on August 29, 1864, and aboarding the Canadian government steamer Queen Victoria. The conference was already underway and discussions for maritime union were not making much progress. So the Canadians were invited to submit their own proposals for a union of all the British North American colonies. The idea swept the board and the glittering idea of a united country took over. The second conference. A month later, the colonies called a second meeting to discuss Confederation. At the Quebec Conference, the delegates passed 72 resolutions, which explicitly laid out on the fundamental decisions made at Charlottetown, including a constitutional framework for a new great country. The third conference. The London Conference, beginning 4th of December 1866, in which Canadian, Nova Scotia, and New Brunswick delegates met with the British government in London and was the important transitional stage between 1864 Quebec Conference and the 1867 British North American Act. There was a strong lobbying in London by bishops from the Maritimes, notably Archbishop Colony of Halifax, to get guarantees for Roman Catholic separate schools. Early in 1867, the London resolutions were redrafted into the BNA's Act. The Atlantic view of the Confederation. None of the Atlantic colonies of Newfoundland, PEI, Nova Scotia, and New Brunswick was dissatisfied with the status quo, as was Canada West. The bulk of the population, especially in Nova Scotia and PEI, saw no reason to change their constitution just because Canada was finding it had outgrown its own. Even Newfoundland, despite economic difficulties in the 1860s, postponed a decision on Confederation in 1865, and in 1869, election decisively rejected it. Indigenous perspectives. Indigenous people were not invited to or represent at the Charlottetown and Quebec conferences, even though they had established what they believed to be bilateral nation-to-nation relationships and commitments with the Crown through historic treaties. Despite their exclusion, Confederation still had a significant impact on Indigenous communities. In 1867, the federal government assumed responsibility over Indigenous affairs from the colonies. In 1867, the federal government assumed responsibility over Indigenous affairs from the colonies. With the purchase of Rupert's Lands in 1869, the Dominion of Canada extended its influence over the Indigenous people living in that region. Seeking to develop, settle, and claim these lands, as well as those surrounding the area, the Dominion signed a series of 11 treaties from 1871 to 1921 with the various Indigenous peoples, promising them money, certain rights to the land, and other concessions in exchange for the cession of their traditional territories. The Dominion still grows. British policy was favoring the union of all the British North America and continued under Cardwell's successors. The Hudson's Bay Company sold Rupert's Land to Canada in 1870, and the young country expanded with the addition of Manitoba and the Northwest Territory that same year. This is the chart of provinces and territories joining Confederation. Alberta joined Confederation in 1905, BC in 1871, Manitoba in 1870, New Brunswick in 1867, Newfoundland 1949, Northwest Territories 1870, Nova Scotia 1867, Nunavut 1999, the most recent, Ontario 1867, PEI 1873, Quebec 1867, Saskatchewan 1905, and last but not least, Yukon in 1898. Okay guys, that is it for my presentation. I hope you all like it. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a good day.